I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I have shop lights in the shop. Thank you to my buddy Dan from the gentleman who hosts the Broke East meets up north. He sent me out like 8 of these LED lights. So now I have a bunch in here and I can actually compete with the sunlight during the day and then also do stuff at night. But the bad news, guys, I hate to break it to you. I sold the Prelude. It's gone. Psych! It's right there. Of course I'm freaking joking. I can never sell that thing. It's just, getting a little sun. Stretching its legs. I had to put the wheels back on, and I actually got the motor to turn over, surprisingly. Pulled it out yesterday, so that way I could make some room in this garage to pull the truck in, so that way I'm not trying to do this in the heat of the sun. That's the plan. Today I'm going to be, actually let me show you this first. I'm going to be installing some JBA upper control arms. The truck needs new upper ball joints, and I figured instead of buying new Toyota OEM ball joints, pressing them out, doing that whole thing, I would just replace the control arms. And I think it's going to be a good option because it does give me some adjustability up top, which will be nice for alignment purposes. And then these are also high clearance, so I won't have to worry about the control arms rubbing up against the springs with the flex of the suspension. And I've got everything laid out here. I did have to go rent a couple tools to try and make this job happen a bit easier. With the Prelude kind of being down, I needed to make sure I had all the tools for the job, because once I start taking the truck apart, I'm not really gonna have a vehicle. And one thing, JBA, if you ever watch this video, just think about it. Just think about offering these in black, because the red is not gonna look good on my truck. I can already tell you that now. Regardless though, performance-wise, they're gonna be a massive upgrade, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these installed today. I've got an alignment tomorrow, so I kind of have to get these installed today. I've got the instruction manual, all my tools laid out. We're gonna see how it goes. So per usual, I'm gonna try and keep this organized and clean. So first, I'm gonna get the jack stands ready, which I'm gonna be putting on either side of the frame behind the 2 front wheels. And then, before I forget, I'm gonna go ahead and chalk the rear wheels just so that way, we try to avoid rollback. I do put the e-brake on and put it in like 5th gear, so that way the transmission also helps lock that out. Break out the old squeaky jack. Don't need to go too terribly high, so I'll see if that buys me enough room here. I go up just a hair. Drop it back down. Beautiful. Yeah, we should be off the ground. And then I'll leave this just as a safety 3rd jacking point here. When it comes to really doing anything, I guess you could say automotive. I was gonna say suspension wise, but I try and do everything one side at a time versus doing both sides at the same time. That way, worst case scenario, it's not as much to put back together if you realize you don't have the right tool. A part's not gonna work out, at least then you don't have both sides disassembled. Also, I have an instruction manual, but if you were doing something else where you were kind of going into a blind, then you have the other side as a reference for what its stock supposed to look like. So I'm gonna start with the driver's side, get these lug nuts off, get the wheel off. I'm always trying to improve my speed on that because, maybe one day I'll be called upon to be a pit crew man. So I'm trying to up my skills. Get this 33 off. And we'll just set it aside. Get the instruction manual set, but I'm pretty sure, oh yeah, this is what we're replacing, is this upper control arm, the whole unit. And it attaches to your spindle here, which I'm hoping is not worn down and the new one will work and I won't have to replace this. But these boots on these upper control arm bushings are definitely shot, and I'm sure they've possibly never been replaced, so they could be as old as the truck. I'm not really sure. We're gonna get to page 1, upper control arm removal. So we took off the wheel. Next, we gotta remove the ball joint stud and this castle nut. Wait, okay, so we need to remove the cotter pin so that way we can take the castle nut off to then remove the ball joint. So I'm just gonna use some pliers, kind of straighten that out so that way it hopefully goes through nice and easy. And then we'll try and just pull that out. Okay, rusty old cotter pin is removed. I think we're also gonna need some WD-40 for this job, or PB Blaster. So I'm just gonna spray a little bit of PB on here, which honestly, if you plan ahead, I should have done this last night and let it sit overnight, but I've got a power tool, so hopefully we can get this out fairly easily. I do not know exactly what size this is. Beautiful, it's also a 19, so it's the same size as the lug nuts, so that works out great. Okay, wonderful. So we've got the castle nut removed, and before I start prying on all of this, I think I want to put like a jack stand or something to hold this spindle up, so that way once I remove this from the upper control arm, the spindle from the upper control arm, the whole unit, the whole hub assembly isn't just hanging. So I'm gonna grab another little jack stand, separate the ball joint from the upper control arm. So that is where my rental tools are gonna come in. So when I was at Advanced Auto Parts, and you can get these, I believe, at AutoZone, O'Reilly's, they all have their own version of these. I went to Advanced Auto just because I used to work there, so I'm kind of biased. But I think there's like a master front end service kit, which kind of encompasses both of these kits, but I don't know if I wasn't saying it clearly enough, but I ended up with 2 different kits. And part number for this guy is 648626, and that is for the front end service kit. We're gonna need this puller. And then I also got this one that kind of looks like a giant C-clamp, or is a giant C-clamp, part number 648604. So I'm gonna try and make use of that. But we need first start with this kit, and I believe this is the thing we're gonna need. The nut on this tool is at least for mine, it's a 16 mil. What I'm talking about is up here, because you're gonna basically put this on and then you're gonna spin this down to press the ball joint out. I know some people will probably say you could use power tools with these, and I'm sure you can, but because I'm renting them, and honestly it cost me like $350 for the 2 sets, which basically you put down as essentially a deposit, and then once you bring them back, you get your money back. But at the same time, you know, I don't really want to bugger them up too bad where they won't take them back, which it looks like this one, the threads, at least near the bottom, are totally screwed. Somebody definitely did a number on this. Somehow, this is going to go onto here like this. I wish I could get you guys a better angle. Let me get it kind of set up first, and then I'll show you how it is. If you guys can see, essentially these 2 arms, you pull apart and you stretch it around the upper control arm to kind of get it to wedge and hold onto there. And then this long piece here is on a swivel, so you can center it on top of the threads of the upper ball joint. And then you're just gonna basically tighten it to get it to release. And it can be kind of violent, so don't be scared. It could be quite the pop. Holy moly. I may shoot a little WD down in here. Maybe that will help release it. Okay. I think we've done it, folks. Like I said, it can be kind of violent. I think that was it. Let me see if we got that. Let me pop this back on here. Maybe we didn't get it? What? Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna grab a hammer. It doesn't feel like it's released. Guess we just keep going. It's almost like these little hooks are just not, like these little hooks are already kind of bent from whoever used this before, I guess. We're not using this ball joint, so 10 out of 10, don't recommend doing that, especially if you're gonna reuse your upper control arm. But trying to get this thing to release, and it does not seem to want to. Judging by the amount of tools on the ground here and the fact that I have a torch, a grinder, and I had to use a hacksaw, you can kind of tell how this is going. So the tool I rented did not work at all, just kept popping off, and the joint is still in there. It's not coming out. This thing is just seared to the control arm. So I basically had to use the grinding wheel to cut as far in as I could before it ran into something else. And then I had to just use freaking handsaw, man. Just grinding away with a handsaw. So things are going well. I have sweat through my first pair of clothes, so I'm gonna go change and take a breather. And then next I have to try and get the rest of this ball joint out of this arm. So wish me luck. Here's the update. So I cut the ball joint in half so that way I could separate it from the stock upper control arm and then the spindle. Now I've tried every attachment, sockets I have, every press that I rented, and I cannot get this part of the ball joint to push down through the spindle to pop out to continue the install. So I reached out to a buddy to try and see if he could give me a ride, because the Prelude is just, I know I said I drove it out of the garage, but I'd have to install taillights. I have no bumpers. The hood is not installed. I have no seats in it. So it would take me all day just to put it back together to go pick up the parts I need. So I ordered a home delivery from Advance Auto for the toolkit that I believe I need. And long story short, it wasn't going to show up today, so I kind of already given up. I just got a call saying it's been picked up, so it should be en route, and I'm going to wait because I'm just getting so frustrated with this thing. I've literally I didn't break this axe handle on it. I broke the axe the other day chopping wood, but I tried using this to basically smack down onto that just because the axe head has way more weight to it than my little hammer. It still didn't budge. So I'm just gonna wait for the toolkit to get here. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to take off the stock upper control arm, which is basically just, I think, like a 22 or a 19 mil bolt that goes through there. And there's an acorn tree or something right above this garage, which has a tin roof. So every time it falls, it just makes a really, really loud noise. Anyways, I'm gonna take off this upper control arm in the meantime, try and make a little bit of progress so that way there's less to do, and we'll see how it goes. About as soon as I cut that last clip, I got the new kit, showed up. And this is the part number, hopefully save you guys some time, 648617. It's the ball joint U-joint service kit, and the reason why this is so important is because it comes with a whole ton of different sleeves, and most importantly, this type of stuff for me to use to take this thing out. So I'm gonna get it set up in a configuration that I hope is gonna work. Okay, here's the setup. Giant clamp. This little guy is pressing down onto the top, and it feels far more steady. And then I picked a sleeve that is big enough for the ball joint to fall down into, but it's not so big that it slips over the spindle. We'll see if this works. It's, where'd it go? A 22 mil, or no. Yes, a 22 mil, and then I can't quite get this on there. There we go. I may have to like pull this beyond the fender without, okay, we still got some play there. We'll see what happens. Holy moly. Okay, maybe a power tool will be easier for this, but I just don't have a whole lot of wiggle room with that brake line. That's about it. we're on. It's working. It's working. Just need the right tool to do the job, folks. Heck yeah. Oh my gosh, that is such a relief. Also, like the amount of hours I just spent working on this when all I needed was the right tool. Learn from my mistakes, folks. There's the lower ball joint. Finally. Hopefully you guys can see this. Because of these hard lines right here, I couldn't get at least my socket to fit on there. It's a 19 mil. If you had, you can't use, at least I couldn't use, like I have a small 19 mil, but because of this bolt extension, it made it tough. So I just didn't really have the right size 19 mil. So I ended up using a wrench 19. And then I basically just set it on there, righty tighty, lefty loosey, smacked it with a hammer to loosen it, got it finger loose. So now you can take this bolt off, or this nut off the bolt, and then just for orientation, the nut is on the back side of the car, and then you push the bolt through towards the front of the vehicle. So we've got bolt, there's a washer which we won't be reusing, and then now we should be able to, or I should be able to just tap this out somehow. I'm gonna grab a hammer. I have a 1-inch body lift on this truck, so I have a little bit more room right here. I do know a lot of people have to remove a bracket from like in the engine bay and sometimes even remove the battery, but I haven't had to do that yet. I'm just gonna use basically this little kind of screwdriver thing to meet the head of the bolt and just keep tapping that through. I'm gonna hit some WD-40 on the other side, try and make it a little bit easier to pull it out. Stay, washer. I don't want to take the washer with me. Stay. Why? Why must it be difficult? Woo. Other washer, massive bolt. And I'm gonna take the nut for it and just put it back on so I do not lose it. And again, it goes in this orientation. So now we've got the upper control arm out. Let's go, boys and G's. B's and G's, we did it. We're finally on to the part where we can start putting on new parts. So these are side specific, and right up top here, it's kind of hard to see with the red powder coating, but it should say HCDS, high clearance driver side. And the other one is HCPS, high clearance passenger side. So make sure you're using the right ones. What we need to do is put this up into here, kind of the same way we took the old one out. So it's got to be pressed in. And judging by the fact that I can't just push it right in is a good sign. That means that this has not expanded over the years of driving on it. If yours were to just like slide right up in there, that would not be good. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the inside of this with a little bit of grease. I just had some laying around the garage that I'm using because I don't want to break into the grease from the kit. So this is just like some marine grease, which should help push this up in there. I'm gonna put a little bit on this as well. It's just a matter of figuring out what attachments I need to push this up in there. I am kind of wondering if the same attachments will work for me. I'm gonna check out the video that I've been following and see how they did it. Just because this has taken me all day and I don't want to waste any more time messing around with it.
So this is our setup to press it in. All we need is this adapter cup that comes with the kit at the top.
Okay, so something like that. And I think I'm gonna try and do this by hand. So hopefully I don't mess anything up. Oh my gosh, so nice when things just work the way they're supposed to. So I'm gonna basically seat this thing all the way up until it stops going. And I should know that it's seated fully when I can get the snap ring on top. I do recommend, this is something I don't have, is snap ring pliers. So basically the snap ring pliers have little prongs on the end that you can put into these holes, and then you can press it apart, which allows you to put it on. I don't have that, so I'm gonna try using these little pick tools. That's how I got it off, and see if I can't put it on the same way I took it off. Okay, yeah. Snap ring is on, baby. Heck yeah. Okay, we are moving along nicely. So they give you a bunch of these thick washers and then some smaller washers, which I'm not sure if I'm gonna need yet. The normal install just calls for the thicker ones, but they do provide the thinner ones in case yours has a little bit of play in it. Basically, you're gonna stick the bolt in, and then you're gonna put a washer on, like so. Slide the control arm in, and then you're gonna, before you keep going, you're gonna put another washer on the other side there, push through, and before you put the other side of the control arm in, that washer, put the whole control arm in, this washer, then the nut. That's kind of how that goes. And just read the instructions. I mean, it tells you exactly how to do this, so I'm just kind of letting you guys learn from more of my mistakes than anything, but let's see how we do with this. I'm gonna also put some grease on this guy to make that easier. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of marine grease on here. Hopefully make my life. I'm just repeating myself. I'm tired, it's hot. I've been at this all day. I'm probably on like hour 5 or 6 now, and I'm not even done with one side. Although now that I have the right tools, I think the other side should go much easier. I almost forgot. Okay, before we do that, they give you some bushing grease, which you're gonna basically put on the outsides of all of these bushings. So I'm gonna knock that out real quick. Grease has been applied. I guess we can stick that through there. Maybe stick this one on the other side and then see if that will go. We'll see what happens. Just get it started. There we go. Cinch, where'd that other washer go? Oh, that rolled about as far away as it possibly could have. That's sweet. I'm having the time of my life, and I owe it all to you. I had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you. Oh, I don't want to touch these fancy red control arms with my greasy fingers, but I don't see another way. Okay. If I can just get it started, this will be way easier. There we go, okay. Let me go fetch that bushing I lost. Washer is what I meant to say, not bushing. So, now that we've got it started, let me wipe my mitts. Freaking nasty. It's so dang hot. I am just covered in sweat and grease. It's a lovely feeling. Wouldn't have it any other way. So then last but not least, that washer goes on that end. And then we can take the OEM nut and thread it on there. I'm not gonna lie, I guess the red, looks super sporty. Looks very sporty. Oh, and I think that is probably the hardest part done. Okay, after a quick read of the directions, I definitely need to put blue Loctite on this nut before I torque it down. But first, it says to put the ball joint through and finger tighten. I guess they call this a castle nut, but it's not really a castle nut. And it's got kind of like this rubber gasketing. I don't know what that's called, but basically it's gonna sit in here like so. And then I'm just gonna finger tighten that. Install the finger tight, then use a torque wrench and torque to 60 foot-pounds. You may need to use a 3/8 wrench to keep the stud from spinning. Lovely. Okay, so let me grab my torque wrench. I'm so glad you guys are here with me doing this. This is so much fun. All right, torque wrench. What did it say? 60 foot-pounds. 22. 22, baby. Okay. So we're gonna start tightening this down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's already spinning. So how are you supposed to do that with a torque wrench? Okay. So they're saying use a 3/8 to hold this little segment here while you tighten it, which might be problematic. So let me see what I have for tools. Okay, so I'm gonna use some vice grips to hold this ball joint section here, because I don't think I have a 3/8. That's on there, so now I can hold that steady while I tighten this. So let's see, we'll go this way. I'm not totally sure how you're supposed to get a torque wrench on this and hold the ball joint shaft to keep it from spinning. At least I've never seen it in like an open-ended torque wrench, but I'm sure they're out there if you have the money. This might just be one of those good and tight moments. Okay, that's like tight. I'm gonna see if I can maybe put a torque, maybe, I don't know, maybe now that it's tight, it'll let me 60 foot-pounds. Okay. 60. So that's what you have to do, is hold this section properly with a 3/8 ratchet or a wrench, and then spin the 22 mil nut on until it's like pretty darn tight, and then you can put your torque wrench on and get it down to spec. So check the torque of the ball joint bolts, which should be 13 foot-pounds, which are these guys right here. And honestly, after I get an alignment tomorrow, I'm probably gonna go through and make sure that these are still where they need to be, assuming that the alignment shop, okay, beautiful. The alignment shop may loosen them. Okay, there's 13. There is a sticker here if you have ABS, an ABS wheel sensor, which I guess mine does not. I don't know if that was an option, but mine does not have that, so I may end up going and buying a bolt or something just to screw in there so I don't have to leave this tape on, but I'm just gonna leave the tape on for the time being. Reattach the brake line. I didn't even do that because I have extended stainless line, so I was able to do it without doing that. Mount the wheel, blah, 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 blah. So the only part I need to go back onto is this guy here. So we gotta cinch that down, put some blue Loctite on it. 85 foot-pounds. Add some blue Loctite, which is provided by JBA. How sweet of them. Pretty generous amount of blue Loctite on there. This 19. And then I'm gonna just put the adjustable on this end. Tighten that down, okay. So I can hold this side of the bolt while I tighten the nut on the other side. Oh my gosh, not there yet. 85, baby, come on. Oh, that is not 85 yet? For real, for real? 85 foot-pounds, baby. And that should be fully installed. So we can take this bungee off of here. Oh, so sweaty. So unbelievably sweaty. Okay. And I reckon all I have to do is just put the wheel back on. And I think it even gives the torque specs for your wheel. I always go to about 85 or 90 foot-pounds. Reattach, mount the torque, blah, 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 lower the jacks, grease the ball joint. We still have to do that. But just so you guys can see it, there's Zerk fittings here, here, and here. And that is where you're gonna grease about 4 to 5 pumps, or until you see the boot here start to expand. On these ones, you should go until you start to see some grease start popping out from the sides. So that's the plan. I don't know how much grease I actually have left. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not seeing any bulging yet. I'm gonna stop there just because I don't want to do too much and screw myself. Plus, I want to get more grease probably tomorrow from the parts store when I go and return all these rental tools. So we'll go like 3 pumps on each of these. 1, 2, 3, and I can already see the grease coming out there. Go 1, 2, 3, there's the grease. And I may do a little more once I put the wheel back on this guy and see what happens, but I'm gonna save the rest of my grease for the other side. And folks, that is it. JBA, upper control arm. I don't think I'm just gonna do that other side maybe on a time lapse and catch up with you guys when this install's done. It is the same day, maybe a few hours later. I finished up the other side, so I'm definitely gonna make my alignment tomorrow. Got both of the JBA upper control arms installed, so very stoked on that. I also did a quick little tire rotation on the truck. Just in case anyone's curious, what I do is I toss both the fronts straight back to the rears, and then I cross the rears to the front. And I'll show you the other side real quick, even though it looks exactly the same. There you go. Ready for the alignment shop tomorrow. Truck is looking pretty minty. Haven't driven it yet, so we'll have to see. So I am absolutely drenched in sweat. It was a fun time. If you guys are gonna do this, definitely take note of those part numbers I gave you for the toolkits that you can rent. I rented mine from Advance Auto, so those part numbers may not correlate. You'll have to do your further research if you're an AutoZone or O'Reilly's guy or gal, but Advance Auto, that's what I did. Hope that helps some of you if you decide to do this install. It's honestly pretty straightforward. Once I was able to get the rhythm, this side took me, I think, about 45 to 50 minutes. So, you know, if things are going well for you, I would anticipate a couple hours to get the job done. Make sure you get an alignment done afterwards, and hopefully we'll be doing some camping. Actually, I know we're going to be doing some camping in this truck very soon. So stick around. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. Put a comment down below what you would have done different or any thoughts, comments, concerns. And as always, folks, make sure you keep elevating. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.